Yesterday morning, Dad and I here arrived in Calgary, Canada together, and we took a bus over to Banff. Not Banff.
Banff.
Banff. Banff was a really cute little resort town.
Yes, it had a very mountain quality to it.
What does that even mean? Mountain quality.
Well, it was surrounded by mountains.
Ah, yes. Correct. Sunday morning, we met up at the Banff Park Lodge to meet our tour leaders.
And also the people that will be hiking with us.
We packed up some snacks for the day to go on our first hike, which was over at
Lake Louise.
Lake Louise.
And it's also famous for the Lake Louise Lodge, the Fairmont Chateau.
So we hiked the Plain of Six Glaciers Trail to the tea house at the top,
where we had lunch.
Yeah, it was delicious. We then hiked up to the High Line where we had some beautiful purple flowers. They were called fireweed. We saw some amazing views of Lake Louise where the water was so turquoise or even emerald.
Emerald?
What color would you call it?
Aquamarine.
Oh, okay, much better. Then we made it over to Lake Agnes, which also had its own tea house right there, though we didn't go in it this time. After the steep walk down, we busted over to where we are now, which is the Moraine Lake Lodge.
The lodge rooms are quite quaint. You have a nice little balcony where you can look out on the beautiful lake and the surrounding mountains. And then we actually had a little bit of wine and cheese before dinner.
In the library, and then a delicious dinner.
Oh yeah, the dinner was quite delicious.
We hiked 11 miles today, and we're both exhausted.
And we're both very tired.
See you tomorrow. Here we are on day 2. We're at Lake Moraine. After breakfast, we walked over to the rock pile and really just took in the whole view. The Lake Moraine's located in the Valley of the 10 Peaks, and you can see why it's called that. After that, we started the hike for the day into the Larch Valley Trail. I ran into this golden-mantled ground squirrel that didn't have any fear at all. Eventually, we came out of the forest into an open field where you could see this beautiful view of all the peaks.
It was a wonderful panorama. And from there, we continued on till we got to lakes. Lake Ministima Lake. Where we had lunch.
Yeah, at 7,900 feet. We could see the next part of the hike right there on the mountain that led up to the Sentinel Pass.
So that took us about 30 minutes to go up the switchbacks.
Up at the top, you could see over the mountain into the
Paradise Valley.
Gorgeous view up at the top.
And there was a rock climber.
Climbing up that Python?
Python. I think it's called Python.
Okay, for this video, they're Python.
No, Python is it, yeah.
Took us about 3 hours to get all the way up to the top of Sentinel Pass, and about an hour and 45 minutes to get all the way back down here to Moraine Lake. Before dinner, I decided to go and meditate in front of the lake, and it was just gorgeous how the sun was coming down and you could see that emerald color of the lake shining. It was just very peaceful. Then we had dinner, and now we're going to bed. Today's Wednesday. We woke up, took a 2-hour bus ride to a helicopter ride.
Just awesome, flying over the mountains and through the valleys. And the helicopter ride took us to our lodge, the Bugaboos Lodge.
Bugaboos, in case you're not familiar, is the name of the mountain range that we flew over and that the lodge is in. After we had a delicious lunch in their dining room, we got access to our room, which was big and spacious and looks out on just this amazing view. After lunch, we packed up some snacks and headed out on our first heli-hiking adventure. So we jumped in the helicopter and we got a really nice scenic tour over the mountains and landed in King Creek, a brand new trail, and I think we were like the second group ever to walk it.
Or a third. But who's counting?
Yeah, right. I'm sure they say that to everyone.
Well, I think the toll booth that we went through said that you're number 3.
And pretty quickly off the bat, we spotted a deer.
A white-tailed deer.
Our guide, Paul, suggested that it probably had never seen humans before. That's pretty cool to think about.
In the hiking, there are no trails. We're just hiking over virgin territory and the terrain of the trail.
We saw some beautiful flowers called the Indian paintbrush.
They were very beautiful. So one of the birds that we saw was a tarragon, which blended in well with the rocks.
We walked over to a beautiful lake and ended up putting our feet in the water. It was freezing, as you can imagine.
After that, we climbed up another hill and waited for the helicopter, which whisked us back to this beautiful, comfortable lodge in a beautiful city.
We had a great dinner with everybody else who was here at the lodge, and now we're going to bed.
It's about time. Today, we found out where we are. We thought we were in the Rocky Mountains.
In Alberta.
And it turns out We're in the Purcell Mountains
in British Columbia.
Right. No wonder it looked different.
We had another day of hiking today, so after breakfast we jumped into the helicopter and they took us over to the Purcell Mountains in an area called Pocket Lakes.
So we landed right next to a beautiful lake on the hillside where we started hiking.
As we were walking, we happened upon these bones of a grizzly bear, the about 3 or 4 year old bear that was killed by a landslide.
We continued up from there.
Yeah, it was called Easy Roll Peak.
And then we walked along the ridge. So we had a 360-degree view.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Which was really gorgeous. We could see out multiple sides and multiple mountains.
We walked by Babin Lake, where we found some fresh grizzly bear prints. We saw a lot of snow today, including one that we got to get really up close to, where you could see the different layers of ice and snow. Towards the end, it rained on and off. Eventually, we got caught in hail at the end. And while we were waiting for the helicopter, Jamie Lynn, one of the Backroads guides, breaks out these anchovies. And she's like, I've never tried anchovies, but someone told me to have this. Also, I have honey, so I'm going to eat my anchovies with honey.
It wasn't with honey. It was maple syrup.
Oh, of course, maple syrup. It's much better that way. I'd never tried that before. She was eating it, and I realized if there was ever a food challenge moment on this trip, this was it.
Oh my God.
And so I tried the anchovies and maple syrup. It actually wasn't that horrible, and I made it through without barfing. Challenge completed.
Challenge completed.
All right.
We'll see the after effects probably tomorrow morning. When I asked Jamie what was the expiration date on the sardines, she didn't know. Someone said those sardines in the can had been there on display for years.
We came back a little bit early on the helicopter, got all washed up, and I finally got to go on the rock climbing wall they have here. It's 4 stories high. It's like the whole building, and you get to climb all the way to the top. It was awesome.
Did a remarkable job.
I have a license. It says I'm a remarkable climber.
Well, and remarkable son.
Oh.
You got to keep that in.
I do.
Yeah.
Today was our last day of hiking at Bugaboo's Lodge. The helicopter dropped us off this morning. We had a little bit of a hike to the Via Ferrata sky ladder.
This was my first experience rock climbing.
We all had climbing equipment on, and we would latch carabiners onto line that kept us from falling down, and there was lots of handholds that they kind of hammered into the cliff so you could just get up these most sheer and steep walls, which also made it just amazing. Eventually we made it up to the top where we had lunch. Again, it was just this amazing 360-degree view of the mountains around us.
The amount to climb was actually about 1,000 feet vertical from the base of the Via Ferrata to the top.
We continued walking down along the ridgeline. At one point we were walking downhill and it was all a bunch of the slate rock. So when you step on it, it really sounds like you're smashing dishes. The noise.
And Greg smashed a lot of dishes. And we went on to this beautiful view of Cobalt Lakes.
We made it to another peak, which also had a spectacular view, where we waited for the helicopter to pick us up and bring us back here.
Sadly, we have to leave our lodge and go back all the way to Alberta, where we do a little bit more hiking and then our trip concludes.
It'll look totally different there.
Totally different. It's Saturday, and we woke up, and we walked over to the pond.
It was really still, so you could see the reflection of the Bugaboo Mountains in it. We took the helicopter over to the Backroads vans, and then took off for Kootenay National Park. We took a hike through Marble Canyon, first taking a close look at Tokum Creek.
It's a creek that eroded and formed the canyon, and it took the last 12,000 years to do that.
Yeah, it created this really deep canyon where the water flows through. The area we were hiking in 2003 had a gigantic fire, so you could see lots of burned down trees, but also a lot of new trees. We then had lunch on the bank of the river. We then continued our hike over to Painted Pot. There's these cold springs coming out of the ground, and they're going through iron oxide. So when the water comes out, it also comes out with this color.
So after there, we went for a short walk back to the vans. Lynn, one of the guests, had a birthday, and so they celebrated the birthday by
surprising her with cupcakes. And beer.
And beer.
And a little champagne. It was also kind of celebrating the end of an amazing trip with everybody there. We then took the vans back to Banff, where we said goodbye to everybody. And now we're at the airport hotel.
What I enjoyed most about this trip was being with you.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Dad. I really enjoyed this trip with you, and we will have to do some hiking again sometime.
Absolutely. It's a must.
Hidden amongst the rocks, we also found a PT bird. Actually, 2 PT birds.
Well, they're not called PT birds. That's just the spelling.
Oh, what are they called?
Now I forgot, but it's something like tarragon. I thought you wrote it down somewhere.
No, because I said they're called PTs. And
No,
he's like, yeah.
no, just they were spelled funny. Cragmore or something like that, or I don't know. We don't remember exactly the name of the bird. The name of the bird, whose name we can't recall exactly. The translation is chicken.
Why did he keep on saying it was a PT bird?
Because he was just telling you the spelling, that even though it sounded like Taramore or Tragamore or something like that, the spelling was one to begin with a P.
Oh, like pterodactyl.
The P was, like the P was silent.
Should we look it up?
Yeah, we should look it up.
Yeah.